Okay, you ready? Good afternoon, home ec ladies of Spencer County Perry and Spencer County. It could be because we sometimes have people from both places, but um, just like to welcome you back after a year. Hopefully we can get back to seeing each other soon. Um, Donica had contacted me about maybe we could do a lesson together. And then since Megan is on maternity leave, so I'm going to actually turn this over to Donica Williams, who works out of the Extension Office in Perry County. Welcome, Donica.
Thank you, Sharon. So like Sharon said, my name is Danica Williams, and I'm the Nutrition Education Program Advisor with Perry County Purdue Extension. And the Nutrition Education Program is just a little program that is free to the community. It is especially for limited resource audiences. So like I'll go to a lot of the senior housing units. I'll visit Head Start families or WIC families. I'll visit schools. A lot of schools are on my list. So I cover a lot of different areas and I'm all over, but we do offer a lot of wonderful free lessons that help you to eat smart and move more. So today we're going to have a little lesson on check the facts, and I will just share my screen here. All right, so we are going to talk today about shopping for value and checking the facts. And this is such a great lesson because there is such a variety of food to choose from at the store, and it's very confusing sometimes. So what this lesson helps you to do is just kind of narrow that down to which one is going to give you the most nutrition for your money. And what information do we need to focus on to compare foods or to buy the right kind of foods? So hopefully you'll be more confident of that at the end. So one of the main ways we can tell this on a food package is the nutrition facts food label. It's found on almost any package of food. And many of you probably have used that a little bit already when you go to the store. Some of you might look for one particular thing on there, like calories or fat or carbohydrates. But hopefully you'll feel more confident when you look at this label. You can see if you use the whole label and see what is this label telling me about this food, and can I make the best possible choice, and how do I compare two different foods? So when we look at the label, the first thing that we see at the top is the serving size and the servings per container. And that's actually a very important thing to look at because it can help us to see about how much we should be eating and how much it can kind of help us to stretch that food a little bit, which will also help us save money and eat smarter at the same time. So here's an example of that. I love this example, and I often do this in the classroom. I will have kids pour a bowl of cereal and then measure how much cereal that actually is. So what kind of picture represents your cereal bowl at home there? We can see from our label here that a serving size is actually 3/4 cup of cereal, which is the one at the top. But you can also, it's very easy to pour a bigger bowl, which would actually be 1.5 servings or more than 2 servings if you fill that bowl to the top. So that would be that you would mean that you would have to double all of that on the label. Instead of eating 180 calories, you would be eating twice that amount. So you would want to really watch your serving size. That helps you to eat smarter. Here's an example of that too, a bag of popcorn. It is light popcorn, so that's good. But how many servings does this bag of popcorn have in it? You can see on the label there, it says 2 per bag. So that's a very easy thing to do. We might grab a bag of chips or popcorn and sit in front of the TV and eat the whole bag. But we've actually ate however many servings are in that bag. So we want to make sure that we're looking at that. The next on the label is our calories. And a good rule of thumb to remember with calories, you know, we all need calories, but we don't want to have too many calories. It's all about balance. So we want to, a lower calorie serving would be less than 200. So for this item, it says 250 calories. So that would actually be kind of higher in the calories per serving. And then we have nutrients that we're wanting to get less of and nutrients that we're wanting to get enough of. So we have here fat, things like fat and sodium, especially trans fat. You do not want to have any in your diet if possible. So if you see hydrogenated fats in the ingredients, then that has trans fat in it. Even so, that can be a little misleading. This item says it has 3 grams of trans fat, but sometimes it'll say 0 trans fat. But if it says hydrogenated oils or fats in the ingredients, then it actually does have some trans fats in it. And trans fats can be very harmful to your body. And then there's things that we see in the blue that we want to get enough of, things like potassium, fiber, and vitamins and minerals. And then we see the carbohydrates, and there's a lot of confusion about carbohydrates and are they bad, are they good, or what are they? But carbohydrates aren't bad. They actually have a lot of key nutrients that we need in our bodies. And we can get carbohydrates from fiber, starch, sugar. So we just have to check the ingredients because foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, all of those are going to give us some carbohydrates. But we want to make sure that we're not getting it from sugar primarily. So like a can of soda would have a lot of carbohydrates, but that would all be from sugar. So you want to look at your ingredients list, and if sugar is listed as one of the first few ingredients, then that item has a lot of sugar. Ingredients are always listed in the order of how much is in there. So the first few ingredients of anything is what is going to be in there the most. So that's a good little trick to look at. And usually the ingredients are found near the nutrition label, kind of at the bottom. So to make a good choice with our food, to eat smart, we want to choose foods that are higher in fiber and lower in sugar. And when we eat more fiber, this can actually help us to reduce our risk of cancer and actually help us to feel full and stay full longer. So fiber, I always say to my kids in school, it's kind of like a big scouring sponge inside our body. It keeps us clean on the inside. So it's really amazing what fiber can do for us. And for most adults, they recommend trying to get at least 25 grams of fiber per day. Most people do not get enough. They fall very short of this. So we want to try to look for foods that we eat that at least have 2 grams of fiber in them. And we can see our example here does not have any fiber. It is 0 grams. Okay, and then on the nutrition facts label, we see percentage of daily value on there. And that's just telling us, are we meeting, how much of that nutrient are we meeting for our day? So an easy way to look at that is just to say 5% or less is really low. 20% or more is high. So if we look at our example on the screen, we can see that this item is kind of high in total fat and saturated fat. It's on the higher end. It's also high in sodium. Sodium is 20%. But it also has calcium in it. So this might be a dairy product of some kind, but it has 20% of our daily value of calcium. So we can see, it's not always all bad or all good. It's what does this food give us? And it helps you to see the total picture. So if you, I want to challenge all of you to practice that. The next time you go to a grocery store, pick up one nutrition label and read it. And just look at the percentage of daily value and see what is high on that item. The more you practice that, the easier you'll just be able to glance at that and tell what it is. So you want to try to get enough of things like potassium, fiber, protein. Now, protein doesn't always have the percentage of daily value, but if it says 5 grams or more of protein, that's a good source of protein. And definitely trying to get things like your vitamins, vitamin A and C, calcium and iron. And that has actually changed a little bit on the new nutrition label. And we're going to look at that at the end to see what changes. The vitamins have changed a little bit, and it also shows how much added sugars are in an item. Because a food like fruit or milk can actually have natural sugar, but when the factory adds sugar to it, like an example would be white milk or chocolate milk. And the chocolate milk is going to have added sugar, but the white milk would have natural sugar. The new label can help us to figure that out. And at the bottom, there's a footnote, and this just helps you to see things that never change. This is a daily percent of daily values in an average diet. So for most women, we fall under the 2,000 calorie if we're moderately active. Now, if we're not active at all, we might actually need less than that. Or if we're very active, we might need a little more. So it's not exactly the same for everyone, but it's a general thing that most adult women need around 2,000 calories. And then it helps you to see you should get less than this amount of fat, less than this amount of sodium, and about how many carbohydrates and fiber. There's that 25 grams of fiber that we're supposed to reach for in a day. Okay, so we're going to take a quick moving break without even getting out of our chairs. We're just going to do a little simple chest press. And so you push your hands together like you're saying a prayer. Okay, kind of like that. And you just kind of squeeze the palms of your hands together. And you'll feel that in your chest. It's just a little chest exercise. So press and relax it and press for a few minutes and relax it. That's something simple and easy you can do while you're watching TV. Chest press. And then to just do a simple stretch, you clasp your hands behind your back and it kind of pulls those shoulders back and stretches the front. And I love that because it's a simple exercise you can do while sitting watching television or sitting at your computer. Okay, now we have 2 labels. We're just going to practice comparing and see what this teaches us. We have here 2 different kinds of crackers. And one is not necessarily better than the other. We just want to see what the difference is. So one thing I notice is that the serving size is a little different. One is 5 crackers on the left, and the one on the right is 4 crackers. Also, the calories are a little different, 60 versus 90. The fat is a little different. The one on the left is actually lower in fat, but the one on the right has more fiber. It's probably more of a whole grain cracker. And the one on the left is probably just like a saltine. The sodium is a little higher on the left, on the saltine one. But some of the things are about the same. So that kind of helps you to just see how you can compare 2 items at the grocery store to try to buy the one that's the best value for you. And it's not always going to be the same for every single person. But choosing a higher fiber item is a good idea. Here's one example, whole milk versus skim milk. And that looks kind of tiny on my screen, but I hope you can kind of see it on your end. One thing you'll notice, a lot of people think whole milk has more vitamins in it, but if you look at the bottom at the vitamins, you'll see that actually skim milk has a little more vitamin A and vitamin C. The calcium is the same, 30% in a glass of milk, and everything else is the same. So the nutrition is about the same in whole milk or skim milk. The main difference is in the fat. If you look at the total fat of whole milk, you see that it's 12%, and the skim milk has 0%. So the main difference between whole milk and skim milk is the fat, but also the calories, because whole milk has 150 calories in a glass of milk and skim milk has 90. So you can kind of see how you can compare two items.
So what about 2% milk?
And that's a good question, Sharon. So it doesn't have it on here, but it would be similar with 2% milk. The official recommendation with the USDA is to try to go with low fat milk, which is skim or 1%. So I don't know if you've ever tried 1%, but that's got a little bit of fat in it. So it might help with the flavor and texture. Some people just don't like skim milk, and that's what they serve at schools. They'll serve 1% milk. So 2% milk is going to have a little more fat and a little more calories in it, but it's going to be less than whole. But it still is going to have the same amount of calcium in it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So you can try this with different items at the store. Here's an example of baked potato chips or regular potato chips, cheddar cheese or reduced fat cheddar. And you can just kind of compare the two items and see which one would be the better buy nutritionally for you. In this example, it's kind of like the skim milk versus the whole milk. You're still going to get 20% of your calcium, but you're going to get less fat in the reduced fat cheddar cheese. And again, we talked about the ingredients. A good thing to look for in your ingredients at the bottom is whole grains. Sorry. Whole grain oats is the first ingredient of this cereal. So that's good. It's a whole grain. It's, it doesn't have sugar as the first ingredient. Some cereals out there will actually list sugar as the first ingredient, which means that bowl is primarily sugar. So that's a good thing to look for. Sugar is on there, but it is number 4. So that's good. Same with, how do you tell if we have two different breads here? You have 100% whole wheat bread and honey wheat bread. And a lot of people think, well, they're both brown, so they're both whole grains. But when you look at the ingredients, the one on the left says stone ground whole wheat flour is the first ingredient. And the one on the right says enriched wheat flour, which is just another word for white flour. So one of them is primarily white flour and the other one's primarily whole wheat flour. So the whole grain one would be the whole wheat flour or the 100% whole wheat bread. So labels can kind of be misleading. That's why we need to look at the nutrition facts label and the ingredients to really be informed. Okay, and I like this slide because it helps you to break this down because it's so confusing. Some is fat-free, some is reduced fat, and some is low fat. So what does that exactly mean? So fat-free is less than 0.5 grams per serving, and low fat is 3 grams or less. Reduced fat is 25% less fat than the original product. Light is 50% less fat than the original product. So you do have to watch out for light and reduced fat because it doesn't necessarily mean that it is low fat. It just means it's less than the other product that you might buy. That's an example there. It helps you to see that that fat on that cheese was reduced from 10 grams to 5 grams. It's tiny on my screen. I had to look closer. So that helps you to see it was 50% less. When you're looking at labels, you want to look for low sodium or reduced sodium. But again, with the reduced sodium, you have to be careful because it might have too much sodium for you still, even though it's just reduced. It's just half of what the original product was. You see unsalted tops on the crackers, and you see no salt added in canned foods. That's a good thing to look for because canned items can often have a lot of salt in them. You also want to, of course, look for, if you have a family member with allergies, look for those items on your ingredients. That can inform you of that. And here's an example in our program. We have it's a skillet lasagna that you can easily throw together. You can just use sauce and your toppings and your pasta and cook it all in one pan. It's really easy. And the difference between that recipe and this frozen lasagna that you can buy at the store is huge. You see the calories are 370 on the homemade and 650 on the store-bought one, or the one that's pre-made. And also you can see the sodium is 22% on our homemade, but 47% on the frozen lasagna at the store. So you can really make a difference just by trying to make a few things from scratch. You can even doing it the easier shortcut way is usually better than buying the pre-made version at the store. They're a lot higher usually in sodium and fat. So that is back to your challenge. I hope you try to make it a goal this week to look at an item or two in your grocery shopping trip that compare it or see if you're getting the most nutritional value for your dollar that you can. And think about what might make this goal hard, what you might change based on this lesson, and what might make this a little hard to do. One thing is we just don't like reading nutrition labels, or we're busy and we don't want to take the time. So I like to make that small goal. Just do one item at a time. And the more you do this, you're going to be more familiar with the items that you eat. And I thank you all for joining me. And please do remember to share the word about our program. If you know anyone else who might be interested in taking any of these free lessons, they can even earn a certificate after 3 or 4 lessons. So it's a very nice program. And under normal times, it does come with a free food sample and a free gift as well. I thank the homemakers for taking time to listen to my lesson.
Thank you, Donica.